I think it has to be one of Martin Margiela's very early collections when he first started showing in Paris. But of course, he was showing in Paris very much under his own terms. So invitations were sent out to guests and press that invited them to go to not a conventional auditorium, but a disused subway in the outskirts of Paris, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, delighted many of them. So the actual location and the presentation went down in history as a complete provocation. There was quite an uproar, but also it stuck in people's minds, and that must be the essence of punk. And the actual presentation was all done by candlelight, and the models were blindfolded, and they were wearing an assortment of garments with his typical asymmetry and big-shouldered tailoring, but made from thrift finds, and specifically from gentlemen's scarves that had been made, and ladies' headscarves into patchwork blouses and skirts. And at the time, it looked so raw and sort of, you didn't know whether it was beautiful or ugly. It was so new to the eye. That I think has to be, in that time, a very, punkish expression.
Mm. I'm interested that you say sort of new to the eye, because it seems that for quite a lot of people who've done these calls, that's what they define as being something punkish, when something's incredibly innovative and it's so shocking with how progressive it is. Do you think that's what was so, as you say, kind of what made that collection the talk of the town?
Yes, I think so, but also the context of it. We had just moved through a very high glamour period, and but there was a new feeling around, led by a younger set of designers, and Margiela seemed to be really out there proposing something new from fashion, which didn't seem to be based on perfectionist looks and backcombed hair and status jewelry. So contextually, it was very new. It did feel very fresh, and I think the other thing, something might feel new, but it might not create dissonance. And I think that again is true to punk, that you don't know quite where to place it, and it's at once an affront, but at the same time it's got a strange beauty.
Why do you think people were? You said it was the talk of the town. Why do you think people were sort of shocked or moved by it? Do you think it was because it was, as you say, it felt like such a swing away from what had come before? What was so sort of provocative about it?
I think, yes, it was a swing away. I think it was the fact of being, invited to go to some, stinky subway station in a sort of unknown, not at all salubrious part of Paris, and other elements all combined, the candlelight, the mysterious atmosphere, the blindfolded models, and each of those parts that made the whole just seemed an incredibly subversive take on what was going on within mainstream fashion. But I think it became a real experience, and Margiela's never used a traditional front row. So in fact, the traditional status context of how people are seated was completely thrown up in the air as well. So all around, you'd already created a great sense of discomfort or discombobulation, but in actual quite subtle ways. But I think it was the culmination of everything and the experience, everything, the smells, the light, the location, the slight nervousness. I think all of that combined to such a great effect.